I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Konstantin Richter, the CEO and founder of BlockDeamon. Konstantin, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine.
Likewise. So I'd love to kick off the interview by talking a little bit about what are the problems that you saw companies entering into this market, and what is the main solutions that BlockDeamon is looking to fill into those problems?
Yeah, great question. We started BlockDeamon a little over 2 years ago after I've been trying to keep an Ethereum node in sync for quite a few months, and rather unsuccessfully, not being an engineer myself, but knowing quite a bit about how to deploy VMs and working with sort of cloud formation tooling from my previous experiences as an entrepreneur. And so that was sort of late 2017 when the crypto market was exploding and everyone was launching tokens left, right, and center, and valuations were going through the roof. The chasm between that enthusiasm and the sad reality of the physical network infrastructure was what led me to start BlockDeamon, which is really dedicated to bridge that void, right? So to democratize node operations for all, and to help with decentralization and functionality, right? And so decentralized networks require a lot of orchestration. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to ensure that these networks perform to a high standard, and it starts with a quality node. And so that's really at the core of what BlockDeamon does.
Great. And there are a lot of new companies looking to integrate blockchain and spin up nodes to start integrating that into their business units. And it can get very technical, but I know BlockDeamon is doing a lot to make it simpler. Can you explain for the businessmen and investors that aren't really developers, how exactly is implementing BlockDeamon solving all this time and money on the development side to get blockchain integrated into companies?
Yeah, sure. So the key thing to understand is that a node is the physical individual ledger that makes, is one small part of a decentralized ledger. So there's hundreds of copies, and each of these copies live in individual nodes. And so in order to really have control and participate in the network, running a full node is very often a core requirement for institutions who want to really offer warranties and liabilities and need to guarantee the adequacy of the information that they rely on. And each blockchain protocol speaks a very different language than the other. And so deploying a full Bitcoin node is very different than doing that with Ethereum and doing it, for any of the other more popular protocols in the space, like Aeon in Canada, for example. And so these consensus mechanisms are always different software implementations that require different types of machine sizing. And so there's a lot of speciality knowledge within each protocol. And so in order to really stay on top and ensure that your node is synced and qualitative all the time, you need to have an expert who is on staff 24/7, because really what you're doing with a node is the node is only functional if it's functional all the time. A node that works 80% of the time isn't really what you need. And so really what you're buying, more than the physical setup and the deployment, which obviously we also automate and do a lot faster than anyone else, it's actually the continuous management and performance, so you never have to worry about your node. And that's really kind of what enterprises and institutions are buying, is the ability to not have to worry about, is the node synced correctly? Are the right transactions finding its way through the node? Am I going to get in trouble? Am I causing network delays? Am I even up for an investor if I'm on a validator and I've token connected on my nodes? Is the value of my tokens at risk? And so you're really buying peace of mind when you come to a solution like us.
That's great. And can you talk a little bit about maybe any specifics behind, if you're a company and you're considering whipping up some nodes and you're speaking with BlockDeamon, but then you're contemplating just doing it yourself, how much easier is it to just use BlockDeamon? And is it really technical to go through all of this node infrastructure in-house?
Yeah, I think the key thing is with us, the whole complexity is extrapolated away from you while still giving you ownership and security around the node, right? And so you do have all the privileges and the benefits that come from owning a full node. But what you don't have is the continuous let's call it kicking of the node in order to ensure that it's in sync. So these nodes are really smart transmitters that interact with any other node in the network within certain time intervals. And so a Bitcoin node is every 10 minutes, and there's nodes that do that in nanoseconds. And so you need to make sure that every time you hit the target. And so the technical complexity of that is fairly high. If your standard is above 99.9%, for example. And so that's really the complexity. I'd say for even the more mature and larger networks, unless you really build up a large-scale infrastructure organization, it's just also not cost-conducive. And so the companies that run infrastructure in-house, maybe the top 20 large exchanges, and then you're slowly coming into the water where it's like, hey, can we outsource this to streamline some of the cost? And so, we have 20 engineers that do this for a living full-time around, and we've commoditized this, right? So what is expensive and complex for you is, cheap and works perfectly with us. And so there's just really no need to make that one of the key challenges your business has. Very similar with how cloud computation and cloud computing worked very early on, right? So people moving certain things away from on-prem, their own data centers, and saving costs and focusing on the real applications while using cloud is very similar here.
And you mentioned that it can be very different setting up a Bitcoin node to an Ethereum node. And there's also a lot of enterprises that are experimenting with private or hybrid blockchains, like Hyperledger or IBM's technology. Does BlockDeamon work with all of these different types of infrastructures if the company has a certain specific set of needs?
Yes and no. So we like to support public networks that are based on open source communities, just because we feel those make for better decentralized networks. And ultimately, we want to be, we want to build things that find actual customer use cases. There are permissioned networks that are, needed and enterprises want to run. And we make a decision on a case-by-case basis if we actually onboard it on our platform, which is, it comes with clusters, backup systems, monitoring modules, reporting modules, all that type of stuff. And so when something sits on our platform, it comes with a very high degree of quality. And we evaluate each protocol very carefully if we actually onboard it, because we need to be able to build a viable business model on top of it, because ultimately each protocol we support requires a dedicated full-time engineer, as well as customer service and infrastructure resources on our side. And so, yes, we support Hyperledger, for example. We're the first network cloud deployment tool on Hyperledger. And we support permissioned Ethereum nodes for particular projects. That said, we see a lot less demand on those than we see actually for the larger public networks.
Oh, that's really interesting. And one of my questions is about the infrastructure that BlockDeamon uses to actually strengthen the security of companies that are looking to run this technology. Is there extra security benefits from doing it with BlockDeamon rather than in-house as well?
It depends a lot on what in-house looks like, right? To be clear. I mean, we're not doing rocket science, but what we do is bring best practices from the traditional InfoSec world to the crypto blockchain world, which as a combination doesn't happen very often. So we're internally ISO compliant. We adhere to large international software security standards. We get externally audited. And so our whole concept is of bridging the two, right? So meeting enterprises and institutions halfway and offering them security and certifications to assure them that what we do is viable and secure. And obviously, we integrate and work with a lot of the larger customers. And a lot of the times, we have to go through large procurement and purchasing departments, and there's quite a vetting process going on. And so what I would say is that as the most battle-tested system in the space, we were the first hybrid cloud platform offering node deployment solutions in blockchain. We've had a lot of bad stuff happen. Like any bug that can happen happened to us at one point in time on some protocol. And so because we're a SaaS company, we sell nodes for dollars a month, a good chunk of our product roadmap is bug reports from existing solutions. And so building experience in this space is really the most valuable insurance you can have in order to protect yourself against attacks and anything else, in combination with certification and rigorous standards.
That's good to know. And question about your customer base and deploying nodes. It seems like something that could happen at a global scale. Do you work with companies all around the globe, or is there a specific region or an industry that is working closely mostly with BlockDeamon?
We're a global company, I would say, at this point in time. We have offices in Ireland, Germany, and in the US. We're also currently building out a footprint in Singapore and Asia. And so because we're a software platform and we're self-provisioning, people can go to our website, blockdaemon.com, and purchase and launch nodes in all regions in the world. We have data centers. We're integrated in Asia, Australia, and different subsections in Asia, for example. And so that's been a market where we've seen a lot of growth, very similar to Europe, where we're also kind of increasing our footprint, where we find markets that are craving what we offer, which is plug and play, secure, high performance infrastructure.
Definitely. And you seem to be expanding quite rapidly. And BlockDeamon did just complete a 5.5 million strategic funding round. So congratulations to that. Could you talk a little bit about your partners in the raise and what are you using that capital for moving forward with expansion?
Yeah, so we have some large enterprise sort of SaaS type investors like Comcast Ventures, Boldstart, Lyra Hippo, some New York centric investors where we're headquartered and where we came out of the sort of startup ecosystem. And in this round, we also invited some of the leading more blockchain crypto centric investors to participate. So we always, we try to do both. So we try to have traditional investors who really force us to think through classical SaaS metrics, scaling, revenue, all the sort of stuff that keeps you really grounded and focused, as well as with the guys who might have a much more a higher appreciation for the sort of blue sky potential of what decentralized networks can accomplish. And so in this round we invited Hashkey, CoinShares, Blockchain.com. We have folks like CoinFund who participated, Spice VC, Fenbushi Capital, Kinetic, so a really strong selection of Asian investors specifically. And so you'll see that there's some European funds as well as Asian funds, because we do find it's easiest for us to go to market alongside investors who have other vested interests in a respective market, because it's a great way to get introductions. And it's a great way to find leads and identify opportunities, because you have local experts you can reach out to. So we rely very heavily on our partners and investors, and they're also all customers. And so it's an exciting process. But there's it's been a hard time on structurally managing obviously the current pandemic. But for us, it's been the most productive time in terms of revenue growth and scale. So we have fortunately not seen a lot of impact of the crisis. Quite the contrary, there's actually a lot of networks going to mainnet. A lot of our customers are actual foundations that are launching physical blockchains. And so you'll see that a lot of the large POS networks are all slated to go live, as we speak, really. And so every time that happens, we make a little business. And so for us, it's been a very rewarding time. Key funding purpose for us is to, one, ensure that we can scale up in certain regions, as well as to build out customer support, all the sort of types of things that you need when you're slowly moving up into a more professional setup, where we want to make sure we offer 24/7 customer support, where we can really rely on also the quality of people that we bring in, while also supporting more and more solutions. And so part of it is engineering, part of it is sales focus, and then part of it is customer service focused.
Very cool, Konstantin. It sounds like a great list of partners that you have, and I agree, having that mixture of traditional investment firms as well as the crypto investment firms is a great synergy. So all the best moving forward with that. We're running out of time here, but if you're to bring one thing to the table in terms of what's coming next for BlockDeamon in the next 6 to 12 months, what do we have to look forward to?
It's a great question. I think for us, the next big step is to actually allow people to deploy and manage nodes on any infrastructure in the world and use BlockDeamon plugins. So rather than actually buying a full node that we manage and service, you actually, we will sell you the tools we use internally to do this directly. And so, which will be a lot cheaper and lead to a lot more nodes be run in the world. So that's what we're excited about over the next 12 months, is to see the explosion of nodes to support all these exciting projects that we see go live.
That is exciting. So if there are companies or just community members looking to learn more, reach out and get involved with BlockDeamon, what's the best way for them to learn more information?
Yeah, blockdaemon.com is the best way to do that. We have a marketplace. You can kind of surf all the different protocols. You can find out what these protocols do, the machine specs, software requirements in order to interact with them. And then we have live chat also right on the site, and I'm in it all the time talking to customers. And so we're obviously working on making this very easy. And so if you're trying to get in touch and it takes you more than a minute and you're persistent enough, tell me about it, because I'm dedicated to make response times very fast and sufficient. So please come and visit us. And we offer free shared Bitcoin nodes also to get people started to experience what it looks like to actually physically run a node.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Konstantin. I will leave those links in the description box below for the viewers. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. All the best with everything moving forward with BlockDeamon, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ashton.